This boat behind me here is the new flagship of the Beneteau Gran Turismo line. But you might be forgiven for thinking that it's not. After all, stylistically, it's a major departure from what's gone before. Because if the old Beneteau GT line was starting to look a little old-fashioned, a little bit long in the tooth, well, this is anything but. It's very deliberately designed to feel different, to feel more sporting, to feel more aggressive. So we've come down to the factory in Monfalcone where it's built to take this new flagship GT50 out on the water and see exactly what the new next generation Gran Turismo line is all about. Now, the boat is moored stern to in the Mediterranean fashion, so that's exactly where we'll begin. They're refueling at the moment in preparation for a bunch of other journalists to jump on board, but we'll work around that. So we've got a high-low platform aft, a really good size. We've got a ladder beneath that hatch on the port side. As you can see, we've got steps that drop down telescopically into the water when you drop it below the surface. And this platform, as you can see, is well set up for a tender, able to handle 400 kilos. So there's plenty of scope for a decent tender at that. In terms of the facilities back here, we've got the transom shower built in neatly there on the port side, and beneath this little hatch here we've got your shore power neatly tucked away. Plenty more storage beneath this sun pad aft. As you can see, it hinges from this point to give you access to a particularly voluminous locker. And as we step forward into the cockpit itself, well, what's particularly interesting about this boat is that it's deliberately prioritising the day spaces. So these terraces you see on either side of the cockpit to expand that deck space, well, they come as standard. And while we're looking at these terraces, it's worth noticing the deck covering here. This looks like teak, but it's actually Iroko. Very nicely finished indeed. This is natural teak, the table. But the table itself is quite interesting too. As you can see, it's on fixed legs, so it doesn't drop down into this space. So you can't use an infill to turn this dinette into a sunbed. They deem that this is adequate as it is. And as I'll illustrate right now, if I can, with one hand, you can also move this backrest forward to expand that sunbed, just like that, leaving a couple of seats on either side, plus the aft-facing bench. That's big enough for a couple of people, maybe another couple on either side of that. So you can see where they're coming from with that, but I would anticipate that a few people will insist on a drop-down table there, so you can turn this entire space into a sunbed. Either way, this is the way they've done it, and it's particularly practical because you can also spec a sunshade, an awning out the back of the roof structure there, and you can also spec an awning that comes out over each of these side decks when the terraces are in the deployed position. So that makes good sense. And if you want to shut it up for year-round use, you can also enclose the entire cockpit in canvases too. Now, this is a particularly interesting part of the boat. As you can see, there's a hinged up window panel, an open door here. So this entire section here, the galley and the helm station, can be closed off for a bit of air-conditioned relaxation, and that is a feature based on extensive feedback from Benetau's CNAPS data, which tells them how people actually tend to use their boats. And we'll have a look at that in a second, but first let's just nip forward up 3 steps towards the foredeck. Those 3 steps illustrate the fact that this is substantially raised forward. As I say, the priority is day spaces, but the simple elevation, both of these side decks and of that sunbed in the centre, suggests to me that we've got pretty good volume down below for a bit of accommodation too. What I really love though is this. That's not great, of course, for the volume down below because we've sunken the deck, which will drop the deck head, but a sunken bow lounge right up here in the forepeak is a really lovely place to sit. When you perch yourselves in there, maybe 6, maybe even 7 people, the backrest come right up to your shoulder blades, so it feels fantastically secure. It's a lovely little spot just to escape the party aft, and particularly good if you've got a young family. As for the anchor locker, this entire thing sweeps up in one motion giving you access to the anchor that then projects out forward before dropping down, so it can avoid impacting that beautiful reverse bow that is such a critical part of the styling here. And talking of the styling, actually, you'll see that we've got black sunken cleats, black rails. It's quite a cool looking boat. You'll see some carbon fibre detailing too, and that is part and parcel of the fact that this is the Alpine version, the upgraded version. Alpine, a French company, so it makes good sense in terms of the synergy between Beneteau and Alpine. And it works well. You'll see that it really does upgrade the feeling of the boat, particularly at the helm. And we'll nip in there right now and take a closer look. As we do so, walking aft along this port walkway, it's worth noticing we've got a little ridge here on the roof structure. No grab rails, but this is good enough to keep you good and safe, particularly in tandem with these peripheral guardrails that come up just above the knee, as you can see. And when we get back down in here, well, quite handily, they've opened this aft-facing bench. So you can see we've got plenty of storage in there, plenty more in this section, in addition to the stuff beneath that sunbed. And it's worth having a look down into the engine bay while they've got that open too. We'll just climb down in here. As you can see, we've got a pair of Volvo Penta D6 IPS 650s. This is the only engine option on this boat at the moment. By face aft, you'll see we've got stubby little jack shafts connected to the IPS units further aft, and that shifts the weight a little further forward, which should be good for the dynamics. Not a tremendous amount of room in here, but enough. There's your generator. There's your battery bank on the port side. A pair of fuel tanks on this boat, I think totaling 1,300 litres. And it's reasonable to look at this boat stylistically and expect those to be replaced with a set of beefy outboards. Just for a bit of extra pace and to tie in to that styling. And certainly to do good things in the American market, but that's not an option yet. As I say, this is all you get, and apparently that will take you just beyond 30 knots, 31 knots. So gentle in terms of performance, in spite of all that sporting styling. Now let's move around the front here. In fact, we'll close this up so that we can get to the galley itself, to the wet bar. As you'll see, we've got quite a pretty fluted sort of design here. It's designed to be a premium boat. Built here in Monfalcone, as I say, because it's 50 foot. That's what happens at that size and above. We got a nice big fridge built into that unit. And this is interesting. We've got a little pull-out tray. And the idea there is that you fit an electric griddle, plug it into this power point down below, and cook from this position directly next to the dinette. I'm not sure that's where I'd choose to cook, but it's an interesting feature nonetheless. And as you can see, with this window swept open, we got a good view of what lies ahead. Now this window, you can't have it up underway. We tried that and it does flap about a little bit, so it's best to close it up. But with the door open, with the sunroof open, with the side windows open, you get a lovely through draft in this space. Or when it's particularly hot, as it's going to get today around about 30 degrees, close all this up, and as I say, you've got climate control in here. Now the galley itself is an impressive size. I like the position of it. It kind of reminds me of that absolute ocean view kind of principle, where you stand at the galley and look directly out to the guys in the cockpit. So it feels quite sociable and involved. And it's a good size too, deep and relatively high. A sink here, a 2-ring induction hob here. That's why we got that generator down in the engine room. A decent bit of work surface, a couple of fridges, plenty more space for storage. We got a wine cooler down here, though you can spec an ice maker down there instead. And just as I find that tray for the griddle on the other side here a little bit odd in terms of its placement, well, I find the microwave beneath the helm seat a little bit odd too, a little bit trapped. But it's a relatively compact space, so you've got to make it work pretty hard, and they have done in terms of the storage under that companion seating on the port side. And as you can see, we've got access straight down below there, no door to cordon it off, because of course with that window and this door you don't need to. You're still getting that climate controlled environment whether you add doors or not. And as for this section, I like this very much. As intimated, we got some nice companion seating here that extends beyond that single helm seat on the starboard side, so very easy to pop a family of 4, maybe even 5 here, and keep a good close eye on them on a long passage. A little infill there as well, so you can lie out full length. And we take a couple of steps up to this helm. Let's sit ourselves in that position. And this is what I'm talking about as regards that Alpine package. Look at that for a steering wheel, absolutely beautiful thing. Kind of leather rim, leather at the hub, 6-spoke, very pretty. Plenty of carbon fibre detailing here. 3 MFDs on the top there. We'll have a closer look at this when we go out, of course, and drive the boat. But it just feels very well organised. Lots of lovely equipment on your right hand. Very sociable, good views all round. I'll certainly look forward to taking this boat out. As I say, it's not likely to be a performance machine with those engines under that cockpit deck, but it ought to be a very comfortable boat to drive. So let's head down and see what the accommodation is all about. Now, as I say, this boat concentrates a little harder on the day spaces than the lower deck accommodation. But actually what you get is relatively impressive. The owner's bow cabin forward with an ensuite behind this bulkhead. The day heads on the right hand side opposite that. Further aft we've got a guest twin, which can also be spec'd as a guest double with an infill in the middle, and on the port side here a single bed. So let's check that out first, given it's the least salubrious of the various spaces. As you can see, the deck head does drop very significantly. If I reverse the camera, you'll see that that's way down just below shoulder level, so you have to stoop to get in. And then when you sit on the bed, once again, you got to stoop, otherwise you crack your head on this slightly peculiar angled moulding. But if you just recline a little, ease yourself into the head end of the bed, well, there's plenty of space to sit up. It's perfectly comfortable, a decent hull window. There's the drop-in deck head for those steps that we just came down. It's a perfectly civilised single cabin. Nothing dramatic about it at all, and decent bit of storage in here as well, hanging storage at that. If we ease back out and round the corner, well, the twin cabin is significantly better. We've got a little desk with automatic lights at the entry point, some good storage in there, a bracket for a TV, which is yet to be fitted, and a really good size allocated to those twin beds. Plenty of space between with a bit more storage. Another decent window. And yeah, the deck head does again dip, but once again plenty of room to sit up in bed. And with the infill included, that is a massive, massive double, you have to say. At the entry point, headroom perfectly decent. I'm a 6-footer, so about 6'3" to play with. And as you move forward, actually before we move forward, it's worth pointing out these little hatches in the deck. If I just hit one of them, you'll see that we've got plenty of access there to get down to the engineering bits and bobs, the plumbing, the pump. There's a calorifier beneath that section. And looking to starboard, here's the day heads in quite a useful position with the steps to the helm just there. A separate vanity unit, toilet outboard, and kind of marble effect finish, and an individual separate shower compartment. This is where the headroom really starts to climb. I reckon we've got about 6'10" in there, plenty of space. And nice little touches like this, just a little bit of storage for your toothbrushes and your potions and so on. Nicely arranged and nicely put together as well, I have to say. And facing forward, well, the space in here is lovely. I'm going to shut over a couple of doors to give you a proper sense of the scale of this place. As I've already just illustrated there when I came in, you have to shut the access door in order to open the door to the ensuite. So it's tight-ish. But if I reverse the camera again, well, the headroom in here is fantastic. It feels tremendously voluminous in here. And that's helped, I reckon, by the fact that we got quite pale linings on the deck head there. A nice sweep of furniture here for your little vanity unit or desk, just as in the guest cabin. And look, here's the point at which that bow lounge begins to dip down. So quite sensibly, what they've done is shift the bow cabin a little further aft so that we're not right up in the forepeak, we're in the broader, slightly loftier section further aft. It works well. Big windows on both sides. Plenty of room to sit up in bed. Plenty of storage too, and another TV bracket, this time for a much bigger TV in that bulkhead. And as for the ensuite, well, that is pretty good too. Bigger than the day heads. Lovely ambient lighting, you've got to say they've worked really hard with that. And actually it should look pretty impressive because it's a 30 grand option for a full Lumishore suite of lighting, the kind that pulses to your tunes when you have guests on board. So it's a pretty sophisticated setup. And in here we got a proper rain shower as well as a seat in the shower. So very relaxed indeed, nicely put together. But before we get excited and run up top and grab that helm, I just want to show you one other element of practicality that's going to appeal to those of you who enjoy the idea of cruising rather than merely day boating. Lift that bed on good strong rams and there you have it. A nice ply-lined storage space, big enough for a full weekend of baggage. Well, as I say, this boat is ostensibly about the day spaces, but I have to say, as part of that, the helm station is really a bit of a treat because in response to all that CNAPS data, what they've generated here is a cocoon essentially, with the galley behind me, with companion seating to the port side of me, with a really well-appointed helm, all of which can be cordoned off with that aft window and that aft door. So we can sit on a day like today with 30 degrees and really relax into the drive with a bit of air-conditioned luxury. But let's talk about the helm before we get underway. Because it's the Alpine version, we got this gorgeous, aggressive, dynamic steering wheel with this kind of leather wrap, 6-spoke, looks fantastic. So does the carbon fibre trim. We've got 3, in fact, 12-inch MFDs on the top there, a little bit of switch gear, zip weight controls to the right-hand side, and this shelf is really quite good for the keen driver. We got the twin throttles on single lever at the moment. We got the Sleipner bow thruster. We got the joystick as well, and we got a window here. Now, of course, no door on the starboard side for the skipper, but that isn't a problem because you can actually stand in that side deck. You've got a grab rail there. You've got the cleat there, a sunken cleat. You can easily just reach through the window to the joystick and bring it alongside as though you're straddling that space. So that's really practical as well. Really decent visibility up here as well, particularly if you choose to deploy those tabs to keep it flat so you can continue to see out the back end. One-piece screen, and of course we're relatively elevated here, so if I open the sunroof as I have here with these buttons, I can stand up quite happily. Got an adjustable wheel so I can adjust that upwards, adopt a really quite comfortable position and see the bow of my boat as a 6-footer. Any shorter than that, I think you might struggle to see it past this big thick frame for that sunroof, but still it's a very worthwhile feature. In terms of the engines, well, there are no options at the moment. What we get here is a pair of Volvo Penta 480s, so IPS 650s. They're positioned a decent way forward on stubby little jack shafts, just to put the weight a little further forward, keep the driving dynamics as they should be. Very dynamic looking indeed, very sporting, but that's not to say that it's an especially sporting boat. As I say, no outboard option yet. Apparently the transom is built essentially for up to 1200, 1300 horsepower. And what we're topping out at here with the twin 650s is 960 horsepower. So we got a top end around about 32 knots, which is not extreme, but they were never going for extreme. Even though they've got this Alpine trim, they're not a performance brand. They're a brand that remains all about family fun on the water. And in spite of the fact that it looks very cool and sporting and dynamic, that is exactly the way it drives. And we'll illustrate that right now. As I say, we're on single lever. I'll just drop that wheel a little, make that more comfortable. A little bit of forward adjustment there. We do have a bolster as well, but I won't deploy that yet. I'll just sit down in here in the lee of the screen and we'll get up and running. Now there's decent pickup. I'll pin the throttles. I'll bury the nose a little with the tabs, give it 25%, keep that low. I'll lift them again. Now we're already doing 23, 24 knots now. The tabs are playing no more role in the experience. The Seakeeper 6, well, that's off as well. So everything's manual and she's running pretty flat. I have to stoop down a touch to see out the back window, but like I say, I can dip that nose a touch again and that slightly improves the view. Either way, with this sunroof open, we're doing 32 knots now. If I spin around to port, I can see everything on the inside of the Ark through there. Visibility is fantastic. Got a couple of windows, one on either side, plus that sunroof, and you can open up that aft door. You can't really open up that flip-up window underway because it kind of flexes down on top of your head once you get beyond sort of 24, 25 knots. But there's a lovely through flow of air. Keeps you cool on a day like today when it's 30 degrees, and that's even without having to run that air conditioning. But as you can see, what we got, 2 footers rolling through here, maybe a Force 3 running as well, really settled. There's absolutely no panic in the way this boat drives. It's a new hull from Bill Dixon, the award-winning British designer. We'll turn to starboard now. So there's not a huge amount in terms of thrills going on here, but plenty of composure, a reasonably soft ride, a few impacts, but the spray's going well wide. And in terms of the efficiency, well, that's really interesting. We'll just ease back the pace. Not that we need to, that's part of the story, of course, because as I say, with the efficiency, at everything between 17 knots when you're pretty much planing with the help of the tabs, and the 32 knot top end, we're basically looking at 6 litres per nautical mile. Now we've got a couple of 650 litre tanks, so 1,300 litres in total. So saving 20% in reserve, we're looking at about 1,000 litres. So with that 6 litres per nautical mile, we got a range of 165, 170 miles right the way through that range, regardless of whether we're just on the plane at 17 knots or hammering hard right at the very top end at 32. Not a performance machine, but a good, safe, predictable, highly composed family boat for fun on the water. Now, Beneteau has been very candid in telling us that this boat is not so much about the journey, it's about the destination. And when you're out on the water driving this thing, you can see that. It's not the greatest thrill ride in the world, it's merely competent. It's when you get to your destination that it really comes into its own, because 3 of the core principles behind this design are access to the water, protected piloting, and outdoor spaces, large usable outdoor spaces. And you see all of that. You can drop those terraces which come as standard. You can reverse the backrest and face aft on that sunbed. You've got the big high-low platform as well. And you've got the way the Galley integrates with that aft cockpit, plus of course this bow lounge, which for me remains the best seat in the house. So certainly it works very well as a day boat, but you also get 3 very usable cabins down below if you want to extend that stay and enjoy a long weekend. So it works pretty hard for a 50-foot platform. As for the price, it goes from €1 million plus tax, and that's by no means the most affordable price in the world. But as you walk around this boat, it doesn't feel like a cheap boat. It feels commendably premium. So whatever you think about this boat, good or bad, please do have your say in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.